November 1990, Iraq. Saddam Hussein was holding 15 American civilians hostage. The Gulf War was about to start. Tensions were at their peak. The US government tried everything: diplomacy, threats, sanctions. Nothing worked. Saddam wouldn't release them. Then Muhammad Ali heard about it, decided to do something. The State Department told him no, said it was too dangerous, that he'd make things worse. Ali didn't listen. At 48 years old, Parkinson's disease already weakening his body, he got on a plane to Baghdad, met with Saddam Hussein personally, negotiated face-to-face with one of the most dangerous men in the world, and brought all 15 Americans home. By November 1990, the world was on the brink of war. Iraq had invaded Kuwait in August. Saddam Hussein was refusing to withdraw, when the United States was building a military coalition, preparing for what would become the Gulf War. In the middle of this crisis, Saddam was holding hundreds of foreign nationals as human shields. Among them were 15 American civilians, engineers, oil workers, businessmen, trapped in Iraq, unable to leave. The US government was trying to negotiate their release, getting nowhere. Saddam wasn't listening to diplomats, wasn't responding to threats. The hostages were stuck, and time was running out. Muhammad Ali was watching this unfold on television. He was 48 years old, retired from boxing for 9 years. Parkinson's disease had progressed. His hands trembled constantly. His speech was slurred, his movement was slow, but his mind was still sharp. And when he saw those Americans trapped in Iraq, he felt compelled to act. Ali had become a Muslim in the 1960s, had travelled to Muslim countries throughout his life, had relationships with leaders across the Middle East. He believed he could help, could use his status as a Muslim and a global icon to reach Saddam in ways the US government couldn't. Ali contacted his friend Arthur Morrison, asked him to help arrange a trip to Iraq. Morrison was skeptical. "Muhammad, this is dangerous. We're about to go to war with Iraq. You could get killed." Ali didn't care about the danger. "Those are Americans over there. If I can help bring them home, I have to try." They reached out to Iraqi officials, explained that Muhammad Ali wanted to visit, to meet with Saddam, to discuss the hostages. The Iraqis were intrigued. Ali was beloved in the Arab world, his conversion to Islam, his stance against the Vietnam War, or his criticism of American foreign policy. All of this made him a sympathetic figure. They agreed to the meeting. When the US State Department found out about Ali's plan, they tried to stop him, called him directly, told him not to go. "Mr. Ali, we appreciate your intentions, but this is a matter of international diplomacy. You're not a diplomat. You don't have the training or authority, and it's dangerous. We can't protect you if you go." Ali listened politely, then said he was going anyway. The State Department was furious, issued a public statement discouraging Americans from traveling to Iraq. But they couldn't legally stop Ali. He was a private citizen. If he wanted to risk his life, that was his choice. On November 26, 1990, Ali boarded a plane to Baghdad. With him were Morrison and a small team. No security detail, and no government support. Just Ali and a few friends flying into a hostile country on the verge of war. The flight was long, uncomfortable. Ali's Parkinson's made travel difficult. The tremors, the stiffness. But he pushed through. When they landed in Baghdad, Iraqi officials met them, treated Ali like royalty. The Iraqi people loved him. Everywhere he went, crowds gathered, wanting to see the legendary Muhammad Ali, touch him, get his autograph. Ali obliged, smiled, shook hands, despite his condition, despite the danger. The meeting with Saddam Hussein was arranged for November 28th. Ali was nervous, not about his safety, about whether he could convince Saddam, whether his words would be enough. When Ali entered the room, Saddam was waiting. The Iraqi dictator stood, shook Ali's hand. They sat down, face to face. Two of the most famous men in the world, one a boxing legend, one a brutal dictator. Saddam spoke first, through a translator, told Ali he was honored to meet him, that Ali was a hero to the Iraqi people. Ali thanked him, then got to the point. "Mr. President, I'm here about the Americans you're holding. These are innocent people, workers, not soldiers, not government officials, just people trying to make a living. Their families are suffering. Please, as one Muslim to another, I'm asking you to let them go home." Saddam listened, his face unreadable. He responded that the Americans were being treated well, that they were guests, not hostages, but that he couldn't release them while America was threatening Iraq with war. Ali pressed on, spoke about mercy, about compassion, about the teachings of Islam, about how the world was watching, how releasing the hostages would show strength, not weakness, would show that Iraq was a nation of principle. Ali wasn't confrontational, wasn't demanding. He was appealing to Saddam's ego, his sense of honor, his desire to be seen as a great leader. The conversation lasted hours. Saddam would talk about politics, about Kuwait, about American imperialism. Ali would listen, nod, then bring it back to the hostages, to mercy, to doing the right thing. Finally, after hours of discussion, Saddam made a decision. He would release some of the hostages as a gesture of goodwill to Muhammad Ali specifically, not to the US government, to Ali. Because Ali had shown him respect, had come as a friend, not an enemy. The number kept changing. First Saddam said 5 hostages, then 10. Eventually he agreed to 15, all Americans, and they would be released into Ali's custody, allowed to leave Iraq with him. When Ali got the news, he was overwhelmed. It had worked. He'd actually convinced Saddam Hussein to release hostages. The US government had failed, diplomats had failed, but Ali, a boxer with Parkinson's disease, had succeeded. The hostages were gathered, told they were going home. They were in shock, disbelief. They'd been trapped for months, thought they might die in Iraq. Now they were being freed because Muhammad Ali had come to get them. On December 2nd, 1990, Ali and the 15 hostages flew out of Baghdad. The flight back was emotional. The freed Americans thanked Ali. Some were crying. They couldn't believe what he'd done, risked his life, his health for strangers. Ali downplayed it, said he'd just talked to Saddam, that anyone could have done it. But they knew better. Nobody else could have done it. Only Ali. Only someone with his status, his credibility in the Muslim world, his courage. When they landed in the United States, the reception was complicated. Some people praised Ali, called him a hero. 15 Americans were home because of him, but others criticized him, said he'd been used by Saddam for propaganda, that he'd legitimized a dictator, that he'd undermined official US policy. The State Department's response was measured. They were glad the hostages were home, but made it clear Ali had acted independently, that this wasn't sanctioned. Ali didn't care about the criticism, didn't care about the politics. 15 people were home with their families. That's what mattered. In interviews afterward, he was asked if he'd been scared, if he'd thought about the danger. Ali smiled, his voice weak but clear. "I've been in the ring with Sonny Liston, with Joe Frazier, with George Foreman, talking to Saddam Hussein. That wasn't the scariest thing I've ever done." The hostages Ali freed never forgot what he did. Years later, they'd tell their children and grandchildren about the time Muhammad Ali saved their lives, how he defied his own government, flown into a war zone, negotiated with a dictator, and brought them home, not because he had to, not because anyone asked him to, but because it was right, because those were Americans in danger. And Muhammad Ali couldn't turn away from people who needed help. This wasn't Ali's greatest victory. He didn't knock anyone out, didn't win a title, didn't prove he was the greatest boxer, but he proved he was something more important. And a man who put service above safety, compassion above politics, who used his fame not for profit or ego, but to help people in desperate need. That's the Muhammad Ali the world should remember. Not just the fighter, but the humanitarian, the man who flew to Iraq when everyone told him not to, and brought 15 Americans home. This is what true courage looks like. Ali defied his own government, flew into a war zone sick with Parkinson's, and convinced one of the world's most dangerous dictators to release 15 innocent people. No training, no authority, just faith and compassion. The government said it was impossible. Ali did it anyway. If this heroism moved you, hit that subscribe button, smash the thumbs up. Share this with someone who needs to see what one person can accomplish. Not drop a comment about standing up when everyone says sit down. Hit that bell for more. Ali stories proving greatness transcends any ring.